Chapter 119 to 121. Rest for half an hour, then we'll depart. Yuto looked into the distance at the border of the land of fire and gave the order. The escort team halted, with a Jonin taking charge of the reconnaissance unit, while the others gathered around the carriage. Yuto pretended to lift the curtain again. "Sir, we'll reach our destination in an hour." "Yes, understood." He lowered the curtain and waved his hand. "Do not disturb the Lord." Just 4 kilometers ahead lay the land of rain. Even from this distance, Yuto could feel the heavy moisture in the air. The curtain of rain obscured the tragic nation, cold and damp, in stark contrast to the land of fire. The shinobi donned thick, hooded clothing to prepare for possible battles in the land of rain. They also rubbed their shoes with grass juice to improve grip. Meiko stood out from the rest. Clearly aware of some of the truth, she stayed quietly at the edge of the temporary camp, gazing into the distance. Her fingers were tightly interlocked inside her sleeves, so tightly that her fingertips were bloodless. Yuto scanned the area and closed his eyes slightly, conserving his energy to the maximum. Half an hour later, the team moved out again. They crossed the border of the land of fire and entered the endless rain. A faint pain emanated from Yuto's chest. The black receiver made of yin-yang release began to tremble, its meaning unmistakable. Connection successful! Yuto brushed the rain off a tree with his hand, feeling the cold touch. His focus intensified until it split into 2, using the black receiver as a transmitter to send chakra and mental energy far away. Boom! A large tree exploded, wet soil flinging high into the air. The coffin was shattered, and Shinosuke Hyuga slowly sat up. He moved slightly, then took the clothes and mask from the coffin and put them on. "A fine body, Shinosuke. It seems you've kept in shape," he chuckled, tossing out explosive tags to destroy the area completely. He knocked on the horns of his mask and then sprinted in the direction the chakra was coming from. 5 kilometers, 3 kilometers. At a suitable distance, he activated his Byakugan, and his speed increased again. Yuto looked up, and their Byakugan showed each other's presence. The branch family youth gently touched his forehead, and the god's mask, hidden in his headband, pressed against his skin. The incomplete divine blood of the Hyuga family was replenished, and the pure power of Otsutsuki flowed within him. The transmitted chakra changed completely. The black receiver burned hot, continuously transmitting immense power to Shinosuke's body. Around Shinosuke's corpse, a force field like entwining serpents emerged. "Danger!" The moment Yuto entered mask mode, he shouted, "It's the moon god! Fall back!" He released the strength of the 100 seal, covered his right arm with lion's fang, and charged at the formidable enemy. "Who is this fly?" Shinosuke's corpse, controlled by Yuto, sneered arrogantly, dismissing the renowned lone lion. "Lion's fang bite!" Yuto shouted, using his signature technique while transmitting chakra to maximize Shinosuke's twin serpent strangulation. "Minato, I hope you're not late this time," Yuto thought as he clashed with Shinosuke's corpse. Boom! Yuto's body flew backward at unprecedented speed, smashing through numerous trees and almost splitting the forest in 2. The rain curtain was sliced, leaving a long scar on the ground. Dizzy, Yuto struggled to stand. Having experienced it firsthand, he understood the gap between an overpowered player and an ordinary shinobi. He spat out a mouthful of blood and glared fiercely at the moon god. Shinosuke's corpse tilted its head and looked at him. "Still alive, eh? Stand up, unknown shinobi. I'll ensure you die by my hand." The escort team stood frozen. They were competent Konoha shinobi who would never flee in battle, but against the moon god, the village had a special ordinance allowing them to retreat without repercussions. The problem was, their leader Yuto seemed targeted by the moon god. Should they all die together, or abandon their leader and flee? Mako stood stiffly, her gaze never leaving the moon god. Even though her Byakugan couldn't see through his mask, she tried to connect this devilish man with the boy in her memories. Fortunately, the agonizing standoff didn't last long. A flash of yellow light, and Minato appeared beside Yuto. "Well done, Yuto-kun," Minato said just one sentence before disappearing. The next moment, with a swiftly thrown kunai, he teleported behind Shinosuke's corpse. "Let's move somewhere else," Minato whispered, touching Shinosuke before his twin serpent strangulation could activate. He was indeed fast. Boom. Flying Thunder God was activated. Minato retreated almost immediately, but even with his godlike speed, he was injured in that brief instant. Blood flowed from his sleeve, the pain biting into his nerves. "Using Flying Thunder God to take you away was indeed dangerous," Minato said with a pained smile, clutching his arm. Through Shinosuke's eyes, Yuto surveyed the surroundings, realizing it was a vast plain with no cover. He flexed his wrist and smiled. "Konoha's yellow flash bringing me here alone. Isn't that a bit too small scale for someone of my status? Bring all of Konoha's shinobis out." Tsunade sat on the ground, tying her long blonde hair into a ponytail outside her armor. She stared into the distance, frowning, still angry. "That old man actually called back Orochimaru. I haven't settled the score for him digging up my grandfather's corpse." Suddenly, a signal flare exploded in the distance, and Tsunade squinted, recognizing it as Minato's signal. "The moon god is in the encirclement." The blonde woman stood, forming hand signs. Hearing that Yuto was responsible for transporting the bait, she wondered if he was in danger. As she thought, chakra flowed in a unique pattern, forming a dark red barrier. At the same time, to the north where Tsunade was, Orochimaru to the south, Jiraiya to the east, and Hiruzen Sarutobi to the west, all did the same. An impenetrable barrier stood in the rain. Four red yang formation, in a plain in the land of rain. From the four cardinal directions, transparent barriers rose, with red flames burning steadily upon them, forming an impenetrable barrier. Inside the barrier, Shinosuke's corpse, wearing a Hanya mask, tilted its head to look at Minato Namikaze and the two figures approaching from the distance. "What a grand setup," Yuto thought as chakra continued to accumulate in Shinosuke's corpse. Simultaneously, a sensation of falling into an abyss engulfed him, akin to an inescapable nightmare. Yuto understood that this was a signal of death approaching. Standing beside Minato Namikaze were the third Raikage A and the third Tsuchikage Onoki. The moon god had left the Eight Tails Jinchuriki with an unhealable wound and had killed nearly 100 Kumo shinobi. Given the nature of the land of lightning, it was natural for the third Raikage to seek revenge here. But why was Onoki here? Yuto couldn't figure it out. What he didn't know was that Hiruzen had been quite busy recently. The four red yang formation, performed by him and the Sannin, was an unbreakable cage. Minato, the third Raikage, and Onoki were responsible for fighting within the barrier. This configuration was so formidable that even if the moon god's strength rivaled the Nine Tails, he would be subdued. As for Onoki's presence, it was arranged through political maneuvers by Hiruzen. Konoha agreed to return Yagura's body to Kirigakure, but in return, Kirigakure had to yield significant benefits to Iwagakure, persuading Onoki to take action. The intricate planning and calculations of the villages behind the scenes were unknown, but the fact remained that 3 Kages were present in the Land of Rain today. Apart from the Land of Wind, the other 4 major nations were involved in the moon god's encirclement. Once the bait was taken, the probability of the moon god's survival or escape was nearly 0. With such a powerful lineup, Hiruzen's judgment was understandable. In fact, this conclusion was correct. The yellow flash, along with the third Tsuchikage and Raikage at their peak, would leave no chance of survival, even for Nagato, in later years. Fortunately, I have a backup plan, Yuto thought. Outside the barrier, his main body closed its eyes under the guise of regulating his breath, focusing entirely on Shinosuke's corpse. "Onoki-sama? Asama?" Minato said politely. "Thank you both for coming." "Enough with the nonsense, kid," the third Raikage A, with his light yellow hair, interrupted rudely, cracking his knuckles and glaring at the man with the Hanya mask. "I'll kill him first, then deal with you." Boom! The moment the third Raikage finished speaking, he charged toward Shinosuke's corpse at high speed. The lightning and his formidable physique tore through the air with a piercing roar. A straightforward, head-on charge with the intent to tear everything apart before him, this move was somewhat similar to the lion's fang bite. Hell stab. Four-finger nukiti. Almighty push! Shinosuke's corpse formed a seal with one hand, and a massive, repulsive force surrounded him. The third Raikage's fingers, like the hammer of a thunder god, collided with the repulsive force shield. The ground beneath their feet was overturned in an instant. The four-finger nukite did not break through Shinosuke's defense, nor was it deflected. The Raikage plunged his lightning-imbued hand deep into the repulsive force shield, pushing his opponent back over 100 meters in the blink of an eye. Impressive, as expected from the man who fights the Eight Tails hand-to-hand. Shinosuke corpse sneered, increasing the chakra output. Shinosuke's internal organs began to bleed, and his skin, hidden beneath black clothing, started to show signs of necrosis, turning purple and black. The greatest advantage of controlling a corpse with black receivers was the ability to release extraordinary amounts of chakra. If he disregarded the damage to the corpse, the chakra output could even surpass that of the main body. As a massive amount of chakra surged in, the repulsive force shield's power increased, generating a stronger rebound force on the third Raikage, halting his charge. Opportunity! Yuto's eyes gleamed. Shinosuke's corpse, under his control, activated a gravitational pull to draw the Raikage closer, while a sharp, repulsive force spear formed on Shinosuke's index finger, creating a classic combination attack. Unexpectedly, A did not retreat but advanced, his chest meeting the repulsive force spear. His right hand raised high and lightning roared once more. Hell stab, three-finger nukite, trading injuries for injuries, lives for lives. This was a tactic only the third Raikage, confident in his physique to the extreme, could use. Faced with this move, Yuto had two choices. First, he could match the Raikage's actions and trade injuries. Using his own body against the corpse he was controlling would be laughable. Second, he could dodge, utilizing the flexibility of gravity and repulsive force, imitating Naruto's tactic in the original work to trip the Raikage and use his own ninjutsu against him. In the split second of decision, Yuto chose neither method. He constantly reminded himself of his current identity, the domineering and arrogant moon god, a character who would never back down. He could be temporarily pushed back by a humanoid-tailed beast like the Raikage in battle, but he must not avoid the frontal clash. I will crush all enemies before me, an invincible god. Character. Always maintain the character. Shinosuke's corpse suddenly spun rapidly, chakra spewing from various tenketsu points, combining with the push and pull of repulsive and gravitational forces. The speed of released chakra far exceeded that of the Rasengan. Each spinning chakra had different acceleration, trajectories, rotation directions, speeds, and sizes. To describe its power in simple terms, it was like embedding 10,000 Rasengans on the surface of revolving heaven. This technique was called Double Divine Revolving Heaven. As a member of the Hyuga clan, whether he admitted it or not, the gentle fist system was deeply ingrained in Yuto's blood. After obtaining the half-awakened Tenseigen, he naturally developed advanced and even ultimate versions of the gentle fist techniques. Derived from 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven, the double divine revolving heaven boasted unparalleled power, with full defensive capabilities and offensive power comparable to a tailed beast bomb. Experienced individuals could easily see its roots in the 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven. Previously, Yuto avoided using it to prevent exposure, but now that his preparations were complete, he no longer needed to worry. The collision between the double divine revolving heaven and the 3-fingered spear caused the air inside the 4 red yang formation to explode violently, trying to escape but being confined by the barrier, inflating the rectangular barrier into a spherical shape. A was thrown far away, leaving traces of blood in the air. The chakra within Shinosuke's corpse was also depleted. The double divine revolving heaven consumed an enormous amount of chakra, akin to burning it on a bonfire. However, at that moment, Yuto, through the eyes of Shinosuke's corpse, saw Onoki and Minato Namikaze already close, with the third Raikage far behind, spitting blood and struggling to stand. Damn monsters! Ignoring the strain on Shinosuke's corpse, Yuto poured more chakra into it. The battle had only just begun. Meanwhile, 5 kilometers outside the barrier. Nagata Uzumaki gazed at the massive, seamless barrier before him, his purple Rinnegan filled with rage and malice. So it's the work of Konoha. Thanks for the help. Moon God. He approached a corner of the barrier. If you look from a great height, you will see 3 differently colored streams converging around the 4 red yang formation, resembling a coffin. They are the squads from Konoha, Kumogakure, and Iwagakure. Given the current Ninja World War, the 3 Kage have chosen to cooperate for their own purposes, but remain wary of each other. One of the premises for Onoki and A to enter the 4 red yang formation is to ensure their teams can break the formation at any time to escort their Kage back to the village. Mutual restraint and the ability to betray each other make this a cooperation with daggers poised at each other's backs. What happened before the cooperation is settled, but what will happen after is still unknown. At least for now, the 3 shinobi villages are carrying out their respective duties. At the eastern side of the 4 red yang formation, Jiraiya is standing like a nail, forming hand seals. Beside him is a team of Konoha INBU guards, and beyond them is the Iwagakure squad that just arrived. If Konoha betrays, both Kumogakure and Iwagakure have the capability to interfere with the casters and break the 4 red yang formation from the outside. This is part of the alliance agreement. Jiraiya looks at the battlefield within the barrier. Though he can't see clearly due to the distance, the constant tremors under his feet tell him how intense the battle is. The 3 great masters are besieging Moon God. This is the most high-stakes peak battle in the ninja world in the past 10 years. Jiraiya is curious about how many rare techniques the 4 will use, but as one of the pillar casters, he remains at his post. But at this moment, a huge shockwave suddenly erupts from the outer region of the Iwagakure squad. Rainwater is thrown high into the sky, and trees are broken. Enemy attack! Damn it! Could it be Konoha? Retreat quickly! The Iwagakure squad is in chaos. Jiraiya frowns. Go help them. Yes! Several ANBU obey and disappear from their positions. Almighty push! A loud shout explodes in the air, and a shockwave even more powerful than before appears, killing more Iwagakure shinobi and injuring 2 ANBU, leaving them unconscious. Compared to before, the distance between us has shortened by 700 meters, which means in 2 seconds they will break through here. Hey? The 4 red yang formation will be destroyed. If I wait for the attack, not only will the barrier be compromised, but I might be killed too. Making this judgment, Jiraiya sighs, lowers his hands, and stops transmitting chakra. The balance of the 4 red yang formation is broken, and the rectangular barrier with red flames twists, deforms, and visibly fades away. Ignoring the formation, he forms hand seals again, his mouth inflating before he blows out a large mass of burning flames. Fire release. Big flame bullet. His timing is excellent. As the flames are fully released, the powerful enemy that had attacked appears right in front. The fire style mixed with oil is extremely powerful, pulverizing the ground, but the attacker absorbs all the flames by merely spreading his arms. The heat from the fire style evaporates the rain, causing fog to rise. Amidst the fog, a young man with red hair steps forward. Jiraiya is silent for a moment, then laughs heartily as usual. "So it's you, Nagato. It's been a long time. You've become an outstanding shinobi." Jiraiya-sensei. Nagato's purple Rinnegan glows coldly. "What are you here for? Coming to attack my Amegakure?" "My Amegakure, huh? Well, Hanzo is dead, and there's no one left in Amegakure to stop you." Jiraiya sighs. "Nagato, I only just found out about the battle a month ago. Yahiko and Konan." "Dead," Nagato says coldly. "Killed by Hanzo and Konoha." The white-haired man instinctively looks away, seemingly unable to meet his disciple's eyes. "Jiraiya-sensei, don't blame yourself. You once told me you've been searching for the answer to peace all your life." "When we parted, I told you my answer. For me, protecting Konan and Yahiko meant safeguarding this world. Now it seems this world has rejected my answer." Jiraiya can't help but speak. "Nagato, don't drive your soul into a dead end. The world is complex. Even true sages can't see through everything. When tragedy strikes. Uzumaki Nagato interrupts his teacher, his chakra and ocular power surging like a tsunami. But more overwhelming than his power is his heart, filled with hatred and rage. "When tragedy strikes, you weren't there, Jiraiya-sensei." Light falls on Shinosuke's corpse. With no need to pass through the red barrier, the sunlight becomes clear again. The four red yang formation has been destroyed. Shinosuke's body floats in the air, organs displaced and bones shattered. Yuto pours chakra into the body recklessly, pushing it to the brink of collapse. But it was worth it. He successfully stalled for the 2 minutes before the barrier was broken. The cost was high. Yuto's chakra was greatly depleted, and while Shinosuke's body appeared intact, it was riddled with internal wounds. The three opponents, though disheveled, were not fatally injured. Without the ability to use his companion's eye techniques, Shinosuke's body lacked the decisive means to secure victory. Yet what seemed like a sure kill, at the moment the four red yang formation was destroyed, tilted the scales sharply. As the barrier vanished, Minato and the third Tsuchikage and Raikage felt a sinking feeling. To avoid serious injuries, the three masters chose to avoid risky moves, opting to wear down the enemy within the four red yang formation. That's the value of the siege tactic, to win with minimal cost. Now it seems they were too complacent. Moon God also has comrades, and they are strong enough to break through the defenses of the three great ninja villages. No matter the cost, he must be killed here. Onoki clasps his hands, preparing a rare dust release. Minato nods, throwing another dozen flying thunder god kunai. The Raikage extends a finger, his lightning release armor humming as he prepares to use one-finger nukite. Yuto smirks, sending Shinosuke's body flying high, then disappearing mid-air. "I haven't even enjoyed your bait yet." Minato is momentarily stunned, but his face changes in the next second. "Damn! He's headed for Yuto!" A flash of yellow, and Minato takes the two Kage with him, disappearing from their positions. The forest rushes past below as Shinosuke's body flies high. At this altitude, even Onoki would struggle to mount an effective attack. With 35 seconds left in the mask mode, Yuto calculates the time, spotting the escort team with his Byakugan from afar. Taking a deep breath, he begins to dive. He aims to complete everything in the remaining 35 seconds. Boom! However, as he dives to a certain height, a giant tree suddenly strikes from below, hitting the repulsion shield with great force, turning the tree into splinters and causing Shinosuke's body to jolt. Below, a blonde woman with a resolute face and a purple mark on her forehead stares coldly at the enemy in the sky. Even if I die, I won't let you get close to Yuto's escort team. In Tsunade's heart, there is only this thought.